All right, welcome back to Beagle Eye Visions. Testing, testing. Awesome. We are back for another live stream. This should be the last chapter of The Last of the Hippies. Although I will give a caveat before we get started. There are no chapters, again, I've said this before in one of the previous Chautauquas, but there are no chapters in this book. I just did that to kind of make it easier for the YouTube channel and to find it. So we are on page 80. Page 80 of Last of the Hippies by Penny Rumbaud. Very good book. Have you guys seen the documentary yet? Have you guys watched the Crass documentary since we've last hung out? If not, why haven't you? I'll give you some time to put it in the comments below. I'm missing Matt Bennett. I hope Matt Bennett's doing good. I have today off because the family, the boys are doing a Chicago move today. So hopefully the weather is all good. We have sunny here in northern Indiana, so supposedly there were some big storms coming. Hopefully they drive safe, no issues, and get back to town so we can get back to work. So, yeah, kind of, they're on my mind, driving Chicago. Chicago drivers are absolutely insane. Okay, I got the squirt dog. Let me stop doing a little jig here. Community weekend is going to be here this weekend. Another Sea of Thieves community weekend. Looks like I'm floating. That's awesome. Sea of Thieves community weekend is going to be starting Friday, which is different because normally the community weekends start on Saturday. I'm looking forward to that. So I'm probably going to have to play some Gex later today after the Chautauqua. We'll see. We'll see how everything goes. Gex is not an easy game, I gotta say. It's not an easy game trying to find all the remotes and collect all the remotes. But anyways, I do have to make some progress because 007 is going to be coming out. And I'm not going to be able to make any progress because I'm going to be playing Sea of Thieves all weekend. But then 007 comes out in May or June. It's coming out here soon. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be freaking sick. That new 007 game. But anyways, top of page 80, Last of the Hippies by Penny Rumbaud. Last of the Hippies. This is a modern-day Chautauqua, so welcome back to Beagle Eye Vision. Chautauqua is a modern-day education movement where I'm trying to get people to read books. So by trying to get people to read books, I'm more really just reading the book to them. All right, so top of page 80. Marxists advocate armed revolution by the working classes to overthrow the oppressor. As is the usual case with macho-dominated politics, the privileged few determine the violent deaths of thousands of innocent people. The state has always sent the working classes to the front lines of the war, has always used the working classes as a tool to its own power. In what way are these, in quotes, brothers of the Marxist revolution any different? What kind of liberation is it that uses the deaths of others, usually the underprivileged, as means to achieve its ends? And I just had a conversation with my old buddy JR. We used to go on tour together in Blues and Corduroys. And he said, people think that Marxists are punk rock. For some reason, punk rock is associated with communism, and I just don't understand it. That is, communism is immoral, period. It's been tried throughout history, and it's failed every single time. Typically, a dictator ends up, just being an evil tyrant dictator and then taking over, and then, communism fails. It has failed throughout history multiple times. I don't understand why this is related to punk rock. Even I was watching the SLC Punk 2 Punk's Dead movie, right? It's in the title, right? SLC Punk 2 Punk's Dead. Funny allegory there. But Heroin Bob was discussing the different types of punks. There's like proto-punk and, all the different types of stupid labels. right? And he gets to anarcho-punk, and then the anarcho-punk are like two dirty guys in the woods. I mean, it's hard to be clean in the woods, right? But it's two dirty dudes in the woods standing on a tree, and the tree has it has that Marxist flag. It has the Che Guevara flag, and I'm like, dude, this is propaganda. This is not punk. Punk's not dead, actually. Punk is still alive and well, alive and thriving. It's just in little pockets, unfortunately. It's still not in the mainstream. And even if it is in the mainstream, Hollywood is destroyed. Hollywood is filled with satanic elite psychopaths. You know, like the band Bad Religion and No Effects over there in California. Those guys are immoral. They're not punk rockers. They don't care about freedom. They don't care about morality. What have they done for free? No Effects hasn't done shit for freedom. Bad Religion, The Offspring, Pennywise. Actually, I really like Pennywise, but they charge overprices for ticket. They haven't done shit for freedom. They haven't done shit. At the end of the day, they're all a bunch of fake ass punks. But anyways, back to the material. The extreme left is largely made up from educated and privileged people who, because of their social background, are able to infiltrate organizations from schools to the media in which they can push their propaganda. The threat that they pose to the development of radical creative change is far greater than that of right-wing organizations. The right, because it lacks any true political ideology, or at least because that which it does have is so laughably transparent, still to this day, and because it rarely has the social respectability afforded to the left, relies on the appeal to a small number of people who, finding themselves on the bottom of the social scrap heap, rejected by leftists and liberals alike, take the only option that is on offer to them: violence. So-called right-wing violence is generally not politically motivated at all, but it is simply an end-of-the-line knee-jerk reaction made by people who are offered nothing by society but a life of slavery. On the other hand, the left-wing, in quotes, threat is an organized and calculated attempt by generally privileged people who, to gain power and control, will use those who are less privileged to fight their causes. Those that do not conform to their leftist requirements, they label as fascists. At the same time, however, they would happily recruit those so-called fascists to achieve their own ends. Yeah, The Illusion was talking about this. Shout out to The Illusion, Hamish Patterson here on YouTube. He was talking about how Trump claims to be a Christian patriot, but then Trump voted in an adulterer. Trump voted in a dude who has proven to cheat on his wife multiple times. And Trump hired this guy in. But yeah, Trump is such a good, godly Christian. He's a God-fearing man hiring dudes who are cheating on their wives. Like, in Christianity, marriage is a very sacred bond. It's a sacred marriage is a sacred ritual. It's a bond between a man and a woman to create the familial dynamic. And if you're going to get married and then just turn around and cheat on first of all, you're a piece of shit, and second of all, you're definitely not a Christian. If you're claiming you're a Christian, you're cheating on your wife, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot. You're a hypocrite. You're not a Christian. And then vote. People say like, oh, God, country, and Trump. I've seen that bumper sticker before. God, country, and Trump. Love God, country, and Trump. This guy's not a Christian. Christians don't go around bombing schools. It's like, dude, how are you in denial? Like, how could you still stand up for this guy? He's not a Christian. He's not a patriot. He's closer to a terrorist, and he's proven to be a pedophile. But anyways, I need to stick to the material. Let me hear some tavern music here. I love having a new controller. It's freaking great. Having a new controller in Gex would actually be sick, too. It may be a lot of fun. I need to play some Gex probably later today. But I need to do some uploads, and I got to do the next book review, upload that. I probably should get some chapters out on the next book so I can get a head start, blah, blah, blah. All right. Those that do not conform to their leftist requirements, they label as fascists. At the same time, however, they would happily recruit those so-called fascists. Yes, exactly. Happily recruit those so-called fascists to achieve their own ends. In violence, there is no morality. Yes, and I would like to add, in war. In war, there is no morality. I mean, you look at history, they called it what happened when the South went up against the North. What did they call that? They call it the Civil War. This is, again, I'm kind of ripping off Hamish Patterson here. Shout out to Hamish Patterson. I love him. This is what he said yesterday, too. He said they call this war a civil war. There's no such thing as a civil war. That's an oxymoron. That doesn't make any sense. But, they'll teach it in schools. Yeah, civil wars, right? They'll teach it in schools. They'll teach this oxymoronic bullshit to children, right? Get them while they're young. Brainwash them while they're young. They would happily recruit those so-called fascists to achieve their own ends. In violence, there is no morality. By simply refusing to be used as tools to other people's desires, we have the strength to overcome oppression. But do we have the personal courage to stand alone without our party membership card or without our little red book? Do we have the courage? If we really want to, we are able to create change immediately. We can try to live in harmony with our friends and amongst the people in the environment in which we move. We can try to be creative with the facilities that we and others make. We can learn to reject the stupid roles that we are told to accept, dominant male, submissive female, etc. We can learn to share and cooperate with each other, to give back to life what we and others have taken from it. We can learn to understand the natural functions of the world around us, the seasons, the weather. Actually, and I'd like to add, we can learn to understand the natural functions, and we can also learn to understand the natural laws, gravity, morality, physics, philosophy. These are natural laws that people need to understand. We need to stop ignoring these natural laws. Right along with that sentence. We can learn to understand the natural functions of the world around us, the seasons, the weather, the soil, and everything that grows on this planet of ours. We can learn to understand what people in their unthinking ways have done to the earth. We can learn to reject the gray lies that we are told are the facts of life. We can demand and create something better. All these things and a lot more. We can learn together with those who care, and then, as individuals, we can go out into the streets and demand back the world that we know exists beneath the layer upon layer of lies that history has imposed upon it. We can start working towards something better now. It is up to each one of us as individuals together to subvert the system which perverts our lives. We must learn to be unafraid of those in authority. We must strive for what we know is right. Rather than simply serving our own greed and selfishness, we must find creative new ways to break the back of the system. We must write songs. Oh my God, yes. We must write songs and poetry, make records, magazines, books, films, and videos, spray messages in graffiti and attempt to gain access to all forms of media so that our voice can be heard. We must, however, be prepared to back up our words with actions. And oh my gosh, Penny Rambada, I love you so much because that is part of the shadow work. We can all say, we're gonna overcome our addictions. We can all say we're gonna overcome and we're all gonna change. But if we don't actually fucking change, and if we don't actually overcome those addictions, and we're still just stealing from each other and robbing other human beings and being a fucking miserable fuck to other people around us, nothing's ever gonna change. It takes action. We have to get up and do it. This is at the top of page 83 in all capital letters, all black, bold. Get up and do it. Stop eating fucking dead flesh. And I'm a hypocrite. I had steak today because I had, Subway charges $12. And I had a $6.99 coupon, so I used the coupon. And then I had $2 in my account as like a reward, so I put the $2. So I got like a steak sub for $5. Because when you get a sub from a fast food restaurant with no dead flesh, even though vegetables are the cheapest thing on the planet, It's still the same price as typically. It's still the same price as a sub with dead flesh, and it sucks. And I hate it. Most of the time, I usually just get vegetables, but today I feel I've been working a lot. My back's been hurting. Needed the protein. Get up and do it. It is dangerous and unwise to advocate direct action. It is something that should be done and not spoken about. Each of us has our own level of fear and uncertainty in taking direct action as a form of protest. We must be as certain as possible that we will succeed, unless we simply want to end up as martyrs. It is foolhardy to attempt anything that we are not ready for, rather than diving headlong into something that we find we can't carry through. We must learn to overcome our fears gradually. In America, anarcho-pacifists broke into an airbase and smashed up part of a nuclear missile. In France, they fired rockets at an unoccupied nuclear power station. In Britain, they built barriers across a railway line to prevent the transportation of nuclear waste. Let's since this is a Chautauqua, shall I get into the train accident where that just rained acid rain all over Ohio? What town was that? I just forgot. It was just a few years ago. Last year, 2 years ago. Where acid rain was pouring all over Ohio because NIPSCO, or not NIPSCO, that's Northern Indiana Power and Supply Corporation. Napa, they had a train overfilled with chemicals that wasn't even supposed to go out on the rail line because it exceeded the weight limit, and they still sent it out anyway, and the train spilled chemicals all over Ohio. Whoops, government didn't do anything for these families that literally were dealing with acid rain. The rain was making their children bleed out of their eyeballs. And it's just, whoops, government does nothing. These families get no money, they get no free house, they get no free car. They have to go to work and pay for their own medical bills while their children are bleeding out of their eyeballs. This is just a few short years ago. And it was an event, it was a predicted event because they predicted this event. If you go on the Netflix film called White Noise, the first 10 minutes of that movie shows a rail line being derailed and dumping chemicals and fire and raining hellfire. That's what the whole movie is about over in Ohio. But anyways, I digress. Other people jam up the locks of banks and offices with super glue or cut down fences around government installations. Man, that kind of sounds fun. Putting super glue in the lock of a bank. But then even if you go and blow up a bank, right, you make sure nobody's in the building. The bank is after hours. It's 2 a.m. You go blow up a bank, the insurance insurance is a scam. So it's like you're not doing any real action at the end of the day if you blow up a bank. It sucks. You want to think that it's going to make some impact, but it's not going to make any long-lasting impact because the insurance company is just going to claim all that money, and they're going to rebuild another bank, probably in the same exact spot, if not in the same exact spot, right across the street. They're just going to rebuild a brand new building, and it's going to be 4 days, and in 2 weeks, the bank's going to be right back up, brand new walls, business as usual. Give us your money. It's like, what do you do to fight back? Other sabotage operations at work, from redirecting traffic on building sites to redistributing goods through the back doors of factories and shops. Everyone has their own way and their own ideas about what to do to oppose the system. Every action, however small, further erodes the power that the authorities believe they have over us. Every little helps. However, what is it that you do to keep your mouth shut? Those who do the talking rarely make the actions. Quite apart from direct action, these are things that we can do within the existing social structures that will weaken those structures while at the same time helping ourselves and each other. We can open up squats and start information services for those who want to do the same. We can form housing co-ops and communes to share the responsibility of renting or even buying a property. In places where we already live, we can open the doors to others. We can form tenant associations with neighbors and demand and create better conditions and facilities in the area. We can form gardening groups that squat and farm disused land or rent allotments where we can produce food for ourselves and others that is free from dangerous chemicals. We can grow medicinal herbs to cure each other's headaches. We can create health groups where we can practice alternative medicine like herbalism and massage that create healthy bodies and minds rather than the drugged up robots that are the results of conventional medicine. Maybe we can then learn to love and respect each other's bodies rather than fearing them. We can form free schools where knowledge can be shared rather than rules laid down. Education rather than being state training in slavery can become a mutual growth and a true inquiry into the world around us, a place where everyone is the teacher and everyone is the pupil. We can start community centers to offer an alternative to the male-dominated, money-oriented atmosphere of Britain's only nightly social event and America's only nightly social event, the pub. Centers could serve and further the interest of the community rather than simply being there to finance the brewer. Hold on, let me move spots because I'm getting kind of paranoid. Actually, let me play a little ditty. I shouldn't say that. Let me play a little number here. They have really good music down in this tavern. We're going to go down in the underground. Because this is the underground. This book is underground. This book is not mainstream. This book is not advertised on Amazon on a daily basis unless you are already looking into books of this capacity and books of this nature, you know what I mean? YouTube is not putting Beagle Eye Visions, the YouTube channel who talks about books and encourages people to read books of this nature, books on anarchy, books on natural law, books on doing the right thing because it is the right thing to do. Books like The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, where we control our genes. We are not a product of our genes. We have control of our bodies. We have control of our genes. How many people know about that book? Oh, I got a new commendation? Awesome. Sick. All right. Yeah, we got some peaceful music down here. I love this tavern. Those who do the talking rarely make the actions. Oh, that was the next page. That was the last page. To finance the brewer. Man, I've been stuffy lately. I think it's because I live in the city. I need to go out in the woods. I literally just need to go out in the woods. I'm like hacking, coughing. I got mucus and stuff. My voice sounds weird. Like, what is going on? I eat really good. I work. I mean, I don't know. Well, I work at, we go to the junkyard, and the junkyard's super dusty. And this and that. But yeah, like, what the hell's going on? For example, in Scotland, a group of anarchists found an unused site hut which they squatted. Having soundproofed and decorated it, they organized gigs and discussion groups. The local council were so impressed by their efforts that they had been given official use of it. Imagine how sick that would be. We can run food co-ops that buy and distribute foods that have been grown by people that we know or have been brought from sources who we trust, are not exploiting the people who produced it. Hold on, let me turn my volume down so I'm not echoing. Music's a little loud down here, but I like it. The waterfall. A lot of supermarket food is grown in the third world where the workers are paid next to nothing so that the middleman and the supermarkets can make huge profits, and huge profits they do. Me and Matt Bennett have both worked in supermarkets. Matt Bennett works at Whole Foods. I've worked at Kroger's. I've worked at Speedway. I've worked at so many jobs. But Kroger was one. I learned a lot about how these supermarkets work when I worked at Kroger. I worked at Kroger almost a year. Supermarkets can make huge profits. Food co-ops can break down that chain. At one time, we ran a food co-op from our house which supplied over 20 other homes with food that had been produced outside the capitalist system. We can form work banks where we can exchange our individual skills for the skills of others. If enough people are prepared to join such a bank, money becomes almost redundant. Yes, think in the beginning of the movie of They Live. In the beginning of the movie of They Live, there's handymen, there's cooks, there's everybody has their roles. You know, like in the handyman, he's like, you need a shower? Well, if you need to take a shower, there's a hole in the shower. It just caved in. We need help. We need some good hands to fix it. We got to fix the shower properly so we can get the shower going again. This is what we need, and this is kind of, I hate to put it up on a pedestal, but these are the kinds of things that I learned living at Skatopia. Living with 8, 9, 12 people. You have to, you know, and there's priorities. There's meetings. You got to have meetings. You got to get together. What's the main goal that we have to get done today? Bills are coming up. We got to scrap. We got to get as much money as possible. So everybody's going to be having their own missions so we can get as much money as possible because we have to pay rent. If we don't pay the electric's going to shut off, and then we won't have internet to be able to talk and do these Chautauquas, right? Like when I used to live at Skatopia, right? That's how it was. Like people, we got to buckle down. We got to group together. We got to work together. We got to figure this out. If enough people are prepared to join such a bank, money becomes almost redundant. The only limitation is our imagination. We can overcome the structures that oppress us, but only if we are prepared to work hard to do so. We have the strength, we have the numbers, and with the courage of our own convictions, we can regain the right to live our own lives. The nonviolent revolution can and will be a reality. The revolution is now. Yeah, remember this book was written in the 1980s, by the way, just a reminder. Wally had both the strength and the courage of his own convictions, but like ourselves, had been hopelessly ill-informed about the true workings of the state. He demanded the right to live his own life and was met with savage resistance. He was killed by a system that believes that it knows best. It is the system and hundreds like it that oppress millions of people throughout the world. Left-wing oppression in Poland or right-wing oppression in Northern Ireland. What's the difference? The prisons and mental hospitals of the world are full of people who did nothing but disagree with the accepted norms of the state in which they lived. Russian dissidents are the American heroes. Actually, let me, oh, what happened? Kicked me out? Dude, you guys kicked me out? Let me have a seat right here at the pub. Alright, I probably accidentally pressed the button. Dissidents. It is so important we look up... What type of camera angle should I have? That looks good. Man, this tavern is sick. I love it down here. It is so important that we look up the definitions of these words. And I know this, I'm going to use Bing, right? I'm going to do a Bing search to look up this definition. So you got to be careful. You got to have multiple copies of multiple different dictionaries. Having multiple different dictionaries is so good. You know, people look at me. I say hoarding is not good, but then people look at me, it's like, Henry, why do you have 4 different dictionaries? Because I study etymology and I study words and I do research. It is so important. Anybody who is intelligent will understand that it is so important to have multiple different dictionaries from multiple different eras and multiple different authors, because there are people who write dictionaries, you know. It's weird, and they, you know, human beings are biased, and they can always insert their own opinions in there, whether they realize it or not. So dissidents, Russian dissidents, dissidents, dissident, a person who opposes official policy, especially that of an authoritarian state. Interesting. The origin, mid-16th century, in the sense differing in opinion or character, from Latin dissident, sitting apart, disagreeing, from dis, apart, plus sedere, S-E-D-E-R-E, which is sit in Latin. Very interesting. See, I like looking up that stuff. Ooh, excuse me. There's that steak Subway sandwich. Russian dissidents are American heroes. American dissidents are Russian heroes. Yeah, I like that. I like that. The kettle simply gets blacker. To defeat the oppressor, we must learn its ways. Otherwise, like Wally Hope, we are doomed to be silenced by its fist. Hold on, I gotta make sure you guys can hear me here. I can see my mouth moving. I'm a little bit far away from the TV. Wally sought peace and creativity as an alternative to war and destruction. He was an anarchist, a pacifist, and above all, an individualist. But because of the times in which he naively lived and innocently died, he was labeled hippie. Let me take a drink for Wally, bro. This is, especially with this music, it's kind of messing me up, dude. All right. Lost my spot. Okay, he's doomed. He was innocently died, and he was labeled as hippie. In the coroner's court, the police inspector responsible for investigating Wally's death dismissed him in one sarcastic remark. He thought, Wally. In the coroner's court, the police inspector responsible for investigating Wally's death dismissed him in one sarcastic remark. This is the remark. In quotes, he thought he was Jesus Christ, didn't he? I don't think that Wally saw himself in the light, but judging by the way in which the state dealt with him, they did. Oh no, that was the end of the quote. He thought he was Jesus Christ, didn't he? I don't think that Wally saw himself in that light, but judging by the way in which the state dealt with him, they did. The same inspector claimed to have thoroughly interviewed everyone who had contact with Wally from the time of his arrest to the time of his death. Although we had twice visited Wally in the hospital, and he later stayed with us for around 2 weeks, this respectable guardian of the law had not once been in touch with us. The few witnesses that were called had obviously been carefully selected to follow the official line. Amongst them was one of the doctors who had been responsible for Wally's treatment in jail. Throughout his statement, he told lie after lie, and then, rather than being subjected to the possible embarrassment of cross-examination, was reminded by the coroner that he mustn't miss his train. Nod, nod, wink, wink. The court passed a verdict of suicide with no reference at all to the appalling treatment that had been the direct cause of it. We loudly protested from the back of the courtroom. The gray men simply met our objections with mocking smiles. Wally's death and the deceitful way in which the authorities dealt with it led me to spend the next year making investigations into exactly what had happened since he had left us that hot day in May. Of course it was in May. Walpurgisnacht. Just like everything that's going on right now. The bombing of schools was just the beginning. That was just the tip of the iceberg. That was the start of the season of sacrifice. It's just like what the Illusion said. You know, not even just what the Illusion said. Mark Passio, so many freedom... Can I get on the ship? The ship is gorgeous. So many freedom-oriented minds, right? True American patriots have said this throughout history. Can I sit here? I'm looking for a good spot to sit. I'll go back to the tavern so we can hear the music as the book wraps up. But, there we go. Alright, sick. Back. Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Let me do double check. Double mic check. Hello, testing, testing. Sick. Alright. Alright, let's get back to it. With mocking smiles. Wally's death and the deceitful way authorities dealt with it led me to spend the next year. Oh, there's a hot day in May. My inquiries convinced me that what had happened was not an accident. The state had intended to destroy Wally's spirit, if not his life, because he was a threat, a fearless threat who they hoped they could destroy without much risk of being exposed. The story that unfolded was a nightmare web of deception, corruption, and cruelty. Wally had been treated with complete contempt by the police who arrested him. The courts that sentenced him and the prison and hospital that held him prisoner. My inquiries led me far from Wally's case. As I tried to get to the truth of any one situation, I would be presented with innumerable new leads to follow. I got drawn down deeper and deeper into a world of lies, violence, greed, and fear. Put simply, I was pathetically ill-prepared for what I discovered. The world started to feel like a very, very small, dark place. That's how I felt Ragnar died. I just got the Facebook memory of when Ragnar died. It was like yesterday. Right around this time of year, it was in March when I played the show in Newcastle, Indiana. I played a punk rock show with Battle Royale and the hip-hop duo group Mickey and Mallory. They got divorced now, which sucks. But, yeah. That's how I felt when I got the news that Ragnar died. Felt like the world is beginning to be a very, very small, dark place. That's how I feel now, actually. Shit. I found evidence of murder cover-ups, of police and gangland tie-ups, of wrongful arrest and imprisonment on trumped-up charges and false evidence. I learned of horrific abuse, both physical and mental, of prisoners in jails and mental hospitals, of doctors who knowingly prescribed what amounted to poison, and who were unable to see the bruises inflicted by courtesy of Her Majesty's officials on an inmate's body. I learnt of interrogating police who were ordered to punch below the head where the bruises wouldn't be seen by visiting relatives. Wow. That's in the allegory of 13, too, the allegory of the original 13 game, and the 13 comics, the 13 graphic novels. There's a scene where he goes to a mental hospital. It's a brutal scene. I learned of interrogating police who were ordered to punch below the head where the bruises wouldn't be seen by visiting relatives, or of jail warders who, to while the day away, set inmates against each other and did good turns, in return for material and sexual favors. I learnt of nurses in mental hospitals who deliberately administered the wrong drugs to patients, in quotes, just to see what happened, and who, for kicks, tied patients to their bed and then tormented them, or quite simply raped them. The official line that the purpose of prisons is reform and of mental hospitals is cure is total deception. Yes, to this day, prisons and mental hospitals being a cure is total deception. It's a lie. The purpose is punishment. Punishment by revenge. Savage, unthinking, brutal. Beyond the world of police, courts, jails, and asylums, I was faced with the perhaps even more sickening outside world. Within this world, respectable people, smart and secure, work day in and day out to maintain the lie. They know about the abuse and cruelty. They know about the dishonesty and corruption. They know about the complete falsity of the reality in which they live, but they daren't turn against it because, having invested so much of their lives in it, they would be turning against themselves. So they remain silent. They are the silent, violent majority. Beneath the glossy surfaces of neatly combed hair and straightened nylons, of polished cars and sponged-down cookers, of pub on Friday and occasional church on Sunday, of well-planned family and better-planned future, of wealth and security, of power and glory, they are the real fascists. They know, but they remain silent. I'm going to take a drink before I continue on, but this is so true. The silent, violent majority of the people who willingly know that these people are pedophiles and they protect them. Know that these people are drug addicts who gave their children away. Drug addicts who cannot take care of their own children because they can't even take care of themselves. Drug addicts, pedophiles, and people know. They know this and defend them and protect them and then turn around and go to work like nothing's fine or everything's okay. Just turn your blind eye like the Founding Fathers. No, not the Founding Fathers, sorry. Turn your blind eye like the Funky Fathers sing about. Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Whoa, turn your blind eye. All right, back to the book. We're at the bottom of page 90 here. First they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Pastor, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Pastor Niemöller, victim of the Nazis. Pastor, this is his last name, Niemoeller, Niemöller. I gotta blow my nose or something. My sinuses are weird. Well, it's probably because it's nice out today. That's probably why. Sinuses and freaking might be why I'm all stuffed up. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. And then when I come back, we're at the top of page 91. All right. Is the mouth moving? We got mouth moving action. Sick. All right. Man, it's weird. It's just stuffy. They remain... make sure. Mouth moving? We got mouth moving action. Love this waterfall. They remain silent when the windows of the house across the street are smashed and the walls dubbed with racist abuse. Silent when they hear footsteps at night and the beating of doors and the sobbing of those inside. Now perhaps they whisper one to the other, the quietest whisper. They're only Jews, or Catholics, West Indians, Pakistanis, Indians, Arabs, Chinese, Irish, Gypsies, gays, cripples, or any minority group in any society, anywhere. Anywhere on the planet, I might add. This is, getting away from the book. In any society, anywhere. They only whisper at once before the warmth of the duck-down continental quilt soothes away their almost accidental guilt. Silent again as they hear them led away into the darkness. Silent as through the cold mist of the morning. They hear the cattle trucks roll by, and when they hear of the death pits, of the racks, of the ovens, of the millions dead and millions dying, they remain silent. Because security is their God and compliance is his mistress. They remain silent. Against all the evidence, against all that they know, they remain silent. Silence because convention decrees that they should be silent. Silence, security, compliance, and convention. The roots of fascism. And I'd like to add the roots of racism, the roots of slavery. It's not the roots of freedom. It's not the roots of morality. It's not the roots of care. It's not the roots of family. It's the roots of fucking evil. Their passive silence is their active part in the violence. A huge and powerful silent voice of approval. The voice of fascism. It is not the National Front or the British movement that represents the real right-wing threat. Yes, the real right-wing threat. There is a racist pedophile in office right now causing war for no reason, for literally no reason. The real right-wing threat. And it's like, it's a cycle. Every time the right-wing president is in office, the right-wing president, when he's about to get kicked out of office because it's the law, you know, he can't be in the office anymore, he destroys the country, creates war, and then everybody, by the time this dumbass inbred Republican gets out of office, it swings the other way. Then it goes back to Democrat, and it's been that way. Look at the presidential board over the last 50 presidents. Look at it, goes red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, red, blue, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. It's a fucking pattern, and these inbred, stupid ass, drunk fucking Budweiser drinking Americans are too fucking dumb to notice the pattern. And we support the police in our front yard. Yeah, okay. Well, they don't support you, you fucking idiot. It is not the National Front or the British movement that represents the real right-wing threat. Like the dinosaurs before them, they are all body and no brain, and because of that, they will become extinct. It is the general public, the silent majority, who, in their willingness to bow down to authority, pose the real fascist threat. Fascism, as much in the hearts of the people as in the minds of their potential leaders. The gag is on the heart and soul. It was these voices of silence which at times made my investigations into Wally's death almost impossible. The respectable majority were too concerned about the respectable majority were too concerned about their own security to want to risk upsetting the authorities by telling me what they knew. They did know, and I knew that they knew, but it made no difference. They remained silent. Yes, it made no difference if people are going to remain silent against tyranny. When faced with evil, people close their mouth and fucking keep on walking down the street. It makes me sick. From the enormous file of documentation that my inquiries produced, I compiled a lengthy book on the life and death of Wally Hope. During my inquiries, I had received 2 death threats and had been visited several times by the police, who softly let me know that they knew what I knew and that they wanted me to remain silent. I felt alone and vulnerable, sick of what I had learnt and fearful of what I might yet learn. One fine spring morning of my nerve finally gave out. 1.5 years after Wally's death, I threw the book and almost all the documentation onto a bonfire and watched the flames leap into the perfect blue sky. Phil Russell was at last dead. I had never chosen... Oh, God, I hate this part. I had never chosen to be a part of the system. From an early age, I had decided to live my own life in my own way. For years, it seemed to work. Wally had come along at a time when I was beginning to question the value of what I was doing. Was it enough? My experiences, both before and after his death, showed me that it wasn't. I had been prepared to believe that the system wasn't all bad, that if I acted honestly with it, it would act honestly with me. At the time, however, I still naively believed that the system served the people. My experiences showed me that, in fact, it was the people who served the system, or else. Yup. Still to this day. I had tried to demonstrate my sense of freedom with humor and love, and was met with violence and hate, which in turn I attempted to combat with reason and intelligence. Thank you, Penny. Not a whole lot of people know how to combat with reason and intelligence. Hats off to you, bro. I attempted to combat with reason and intelligence. I failed. I finally realized that the state, those who work for it, and those who live beneath its authority were the enemy of our freedom, and that we must look for other ways than well-reasoned words with which to oppose them. The system has at its command everything that it needs to control the people and to ensure that its conditions remain dominant. It has the family to limit movement and stabilize those conditions. It has schools to restrict the mind and brainwash with those conditions. It has employment and taxation of it to finance the authorities that maintain these conditions. It has the law, the courts, and the police to enforce those conditions. It has the army to protect those conditions. It has prisons and mental hospitals to punish anyone who disobeys those conditions. It has the media to promote those conditions. It has royalty to flaunt those conditions. It has religion and psychiatry to mystify and thereby threaten at the deepest level those who question those conditions. It has history and tradition to prove the value of those conditions. It has the future in which all of these things are employed to ensure that those conditions will remain unchallenged. We have nothing but ourselves and each other. The system quietly murders people like Wally, yet still it is respected by the majority. Till this day, broken record, till this fucking day, yet still is respected by the majority. The system openly murders people like Blair Peach. Okay, I gotta add. Let me pause away from the material. The system openly murders people like Alex Preddy. The system openly murders people like George Floyd. The system openly murders people like Breonna Taylor. The system openly murders people like Renee Good. The system openly murders people like any of the celebrities who started speaking out against the dark oppression of Hollywood, and then they go to rehab, and then they come back to rehab and go out on tour. Taylor Swift, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, anybody from Disney, Raven Simone, Drake and Josh. I mean, the system openly murders people like Blair Peach, yet it is still respected by the majority. The system noisily murders people like Bobby Sands, yet still... Oh man, they kicked me. I have been disconnected due to inactivity. Hold on, can you guys still hear me? Hello. Sick, okay. Yeah, you guys should still be able to hear me. Freaking Rare. Rare kicks you when you speak out against authority. Alright, let me get back to the tavern. Let me get back to the material. Where to go? The system noisily murders people like Bobby Sands, yet still it is respected by the majority. The system is prepared to wage vicious civil war. Yeah, again, what is that? Civil war, right? Like, idiotic oxymoron. The system is prepared to wage vicious civil war, as in Northern Ireland, or to consider the horror of total annihilation and global nuclear war. Yeah, still. Hey, still to this day. Yet, still, it is respected by the majority. The system and all those who support it, either directly or through silence, are guilty of premeditating the deaths of millions of people, from individuals like Wally to the nameless, unidentifiable masses in some unspeakable war. Anybody who fought a war in 1917, I'm going away from the material. Anybody who fought the war in 1917. Any of those unnames who got carved into, got all of those names that got carved into a brick wall at some cemetery and said, thank you to our veterans. Thank you for your service. All you get is your name carved into a brick fucking wall. Meanwhile, slavery is still bold and strong. They are guilty of conspiring to destroy the planet, the people, the animals, insects, plants. In fact, everything that we know as life. There in their seats of power, hidden behind their masks of reason and rationale, sit people who are not only prepared to destroy our world, but are prepared to admit it. It is these self-confessed potential mass murderers whom we permit to rule our lives. It is these dangerous fools who are the real mad people, not gentle visionaries like Wall-E. Yet, who is it who is punished in the reality of double standards and hypocrisy? We know that they are not fit to rule our world, yet we allow them to do so. Hold on. Back in the tavern. Where are we at? Hey girl. Hey, what up? What up, Tasha? Looking good today, Tasha. All right, back. Mouse moving action. Mouse moving action. Hello, testing. Let me do tests. Test. All right. I'm gonna take a drink before we keep going. I love Penny Rombaugh, dude. This book is amazing. Thanks for tuning in. But anyways, we know that they are not fit to rule our world, yet we allow them to do so. We allow them to build around us a hideously dangerous environment. Britain is at risk of becoming little more than a launch pad for American missile. This book was written in 1982, everybody. Let me read that again. Britain is at risk of becoming little more than a launch pad for American missiles. I don't know if that's synchronicity or if that's just history repeating itself because human beings are too stupid to open up a book. Whatever you want to label it as, it's very interesting. So I'll read that sentence again just because what a coincidence, right? Britain is at risk of becoming little more than a launch pad for American missiles and a practice ground for Russian ones. Thatcher's government intends to spend £12.5 million this year, 1982, on the military alone. And that doesn't include the other thousands of millions on war-related expenses, from communication systems to government fallout shelters and nuclear power stations. The British coastline is becoming dotted with potentially lethal nuclear power stations that produce very little electricity, about 10% of yearly UK requirements, and very big bombs. Wow. The first power stations were built solely for the production of nuclear bombs. There is little to suggest that those being built now are for anything but similar purposes. Yep. This book, like I said, hundreds of times, this book is aged so flawlessly and so gracefully. The air, the sea, and the land are becoming increasingly polluted with nuclear waste. Yeah, but at the time when he wrote this book, there wasn't an island of trash off the coast of California. Now, we have an island of trash off the coast of California. The air, the sea, and the land are becoming increasingly polluted with nuclear waste. The Irish Sea is the most radioactive stretch of water in the world. People, animals, birds, flesh, and plants have already died as a result of this mindless litter bugging. Yes, for an example, I pointed out to my cousin. We were at work. I'm like, dude, you're on the highway every day. You go from Elkhart, Indiana, you go to Chicago. When you travel to Chicago and come back, look at your windshield. Because 7 years ago, when we were kids, we would drive to Indiana Beach, right? We would drive to the local theme park. That was what we could afford. That's what our family could afford. We would drive to Indiana Beach. Bugs, wings, splattered all over the windshield, right? Nowadays, drive on the highway. Drive 12 hours on the highway and then go look at your windshield. You will not see a single wing. You will not see a single splattered bug. You will not see a single fly corpse. And you know, like I don't agree with global war. I think global warming is an absolute hoax. But when the insects are dying like that, that's definitely cause for concern. Absolute 100%. That is cause for concern. When you can go on a road trip and there's not a single wing in your dashboard, that's people should be concerned. Like, for sure. Do we have to wait for the accident that will and must happen that kills people by the thousands before the authorities accept that there is little bit more at risk than their self-important reputations? The nuclear program has enabled the authorities to enormously intensify the development of so-called security systems. Yeah, in quotes, security system. Security theater, more like it. So not only do we have to suffer the insecurity of the threat of nuclear war, we also have to contend with the added insecurity of living in what is fast becoming a police state. Again, this book is aged so gracefully. Nuclear establishments have at their command an armed force who answer to no authority but their own. They are Britain's ready-made SS existing as a state within a state. The government recently approved plans to set up a new-style home guard, a force who will be specially trained to deal with, in quotes, domestic problems. And that means me and you. Ooh, Squirt Dog's getting hot. I can feel his breathing get heavier. He's under the blankets. Ooh, excuse me. I stretch out my legs too. Do a leg stretch. Move seats so Rare doesn't kick me out again. God forbid we can read a book in the tavern without getting kicked out in safe seas. I'm in safe seas too. Like, what am I gaining by being AFK in the tavern in safe seas? What is the server losing by me being AFK in the tavern in safe seas? It's so stupid. But anyways, they'll kick me out anyway. They'll kick me out. They don't care. Stupid. So stupid. Actually, I shouldn't have done that, because I do want to go back down to that tavern. This weekend is going to be so sick. We got community weekend. Double XP, double gold, all weekend starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm going to wake up at the butt crack of dawn, take Squirt Dog out. I just gave Squirt Dog a bath this morning. He desperately needed it. Let's go back to the underground, because we're talking punk rock is underground. You know, my buddy had an idea for a restaurant. It's a genius idea for a restaurant, but you know, I won't say it because it's his idea, and if you put your ideas out on the internet, people will steal them and use them for their own benefit. So you gotta keep it cool. All right, so we move spots here. Home guard, where was I at in the book? At the press of a button, the authorities will be able to... wait a minute. The authorities have increasing... oh, there we go. That's the spot. We'll sit down in this cave. Plato's cave. We're in Plato's cave right now. Okay, so... At the press of a button, the authorities will be able to have detailed... No, that's not it. The authorities are increasingly prying into our private lives, from phone tapping to census forms. Hey, why isn't Edward Snowden allowed to come back home? Why is Edward Snowden still hiding out in Russia? This guy was in the military. And I mean, you guys know how I feel about the military. But why can't Edward Snowden come back home? I want to shake Edward Snowden's hand. I want to thank him for what he has done. Why can't he come back? Doesn't make any sense, because we don't live in the land of the free. We live in the land of the stupid inbred slaves. So don't be fooled by tales of Dad's Army. This one isn't a comedy. Is that outside or in the game? No, that's outside. So don't be fooled by Dad's Army. This one isn't a comedy. The authorities are increasingly prying into our private lives, from phone tapping to census forms. Our lives are becoming files in their dark offices. The authorities have just purchased a computer system capable of linking together all other computers that store information about every man, woman, and child living in Britain. At the press of a button, the authorities will be able to have details on our lives from birth to the present time. Yes, Watch the movie Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf, everybody. It is not impossible that in time they might also be predicting what it is we are about to do. 15 years ago, I was claiming that computers were going to enormously limit individual freedom. Naturally, I was accused of being paranoid. But nonetheless, that is exactly what they are now doing. With the development of the microchip, there is no way that anyone can imagine the effects that these new technologies will have on our privacy and freedom. Orwell's 1984 has become a memory 2 years before its sell-by date. A clumsy hypothesis that fell hopelessly short in its failure to allow for a horrific escalation in technological hardware. I gotta open the blanket up a little bit more. Squirt has a huge, he's got pus coming out around his butt. And that's why I gave him a bath, so I'm trying to, just kind of get air on it, keep it clean, make sure it heals, That's my boy. Private life is becoming something of the past. Yes. Private life is becoming something of the past. We are becoming nothing but numbers in some bizarre lottery game, and when your numbers is called, run like the devil. But beware. They'll probably have a printout on exactly where it is that you're running to. Just because they say you're paranoid doesn't mean that you're not stored in their computers. That's a quote, well-known punk wit. Sorry, I was taking a drink. Wetting the whistle there. As the authorities increase military expenditure, to this day, the money for the so-called social services is decreased. We are expected to live on less and less as the government spends more and more on their war games. In Great Britain, 1982, there are people who are suffering from malnutrition because they cannot afford food. They are freezing to death because they can't afford heat. They are being made homeless because they can't afford the rent. They are being moved into halfway houses because councils can't afford decent homes. And where they are suffering from malnutrition because they can't afford food, and freezing to death because they can't afford heat, round and round and round again. And when the deprivation finally makes them ill, they are being moved into hospitals where the authorities can't afford to properly treat them. They'll probably die young, but hey, most people die eventually anyway. Meanwhile, this year, 1982, not this year, obviously. I'm reading from a book, everybody. Every dumb idiot who just joined, 1982. This year is not 1982. Starting to type the comment in the live stream. It's not 1982. Yes, I'm reading from a book. Most people die eventually anyways. Meanwhile, this year, 1982, Her Majesty's government is spending £12,500 million on the military alone. That doesn't include the other thousands of millions on war-related expenses from communication systems, blah, 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 blah. It literally says blah like 50 times in the book printed. Blah, 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 blah. Hello, hello. Is anybody still there? Is there anybody out there? Shout out to Pink Floyd. Is there anybody out there? Mother, do you think I should drop the bomb? Mother, should I trust the government? Ooh, baby. All right, let's see here. We got about 15 pages left. 16, 17 pages left. We're going to keep going. Is there anybody still there? There. I probably should move just in case Rare wants to kick me. Is there anybody out there? I don't listen to Pink Floyd. Northern Ireland citizens pay government taxes so that government forces can remain there in occupation. If just half of what was spent on maintaining those forces was spent on redeveloping the housing, the social facilities, and most importantly, the trust that those forces have destroyed, maybe a solution would be a little bit easier to find. Hey Google, how much has the American military spent in 2026?
For fiscal year 2026, the U.S. government has spent approximately $400 billion on national defense as of March 2026. This spending is part of a broader $1.01 trillion national defense budget for the full fiscal year. Key details include, year-to-date, defense accounts for about 13% of the $3.1 trillion in total federal spending recorded since October 2025. Base budget. The Core Defense Appropriations Act provides roughly $838.5 billion for discretionary military spending. Major allocations.
Billions.
$193.3 billion is dedicated to military personnel, including a 3.8% pay raise. Would you like me to break down the spending by specific military branches?
Wow. Roughly $193.3 billion is dedicated to military personnel, including a 3.8% pay raise. Motherfucker, I've been working in this country since I've been fucking 17. I've been working kitchens. I've been working... I've never been in a factory. I worked at Krispy Kreme, and that was kind of like a factory. I've been on top of roofs. I've done house siding. I've done in kitchens. I've been in grocery stores. I've been retail, cashier, Walgreens, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. I've done roofs. I've done plumbing. I've done soldering. I've done... Guess how much money I make? I haven't got a raise in 20 years. I haven't got a raise in 20 years. I mean, I did get a raise at Walgreens, but it was like my raise was 10 cents. I got like a 10-cent raise at Walgreens. I've been working my freaking butt off. But military is out here spending trillions. What a fucking joke. But of course, the government is not looking for a real solution. It is looking for a way in which it can continue its exploitation of the people and the land without opposition from any of the rival factions. The army in Northern Ireland is not a peacekeeping force, whatever the government may say. It is an army of occupation, and all the people, be they Catholic, Protestant, or indifferent, suffer accordingly. It was the English who created the Irish problem when hundreds of years ago they first invaded Ireland for exactly the same reasons that since then they have invaded countless countries throughout the world to exploit natural assets. Again, to this day it's still fucking happening. It's a joke. As long as those assets continue to profit Westminster, the Irish problem will exist. Young men whose only difference is the narrow strip of water, or perhaps more tragic still, the narrow strip of land that divides their birthplaces, shoot at each other across an atmosphere of accumulated hatred. Yet, what can they know to hate this way? They know nothing but what they have been told to know by the authorities. Those who care nothing for their deaths, but what they might gain by them. See how Paper Tiger Thatcher cried crocodile tears for her lost son, yet see how little compassion she had for the families of the H Block dead. Centuries of wasted blood, centuries of wasted tears, each vessel another childless mother, each death another stupid reprisal. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? Newsflash! Over the last few weeks, Britain has gone to war in the Falklands, graphically illustrating the complete madness of Margaret Thatcher and her government. What should have been little more than a minor territorial dispute requiring discussion and diplomacy, has blown up into a tense world situation where hundreds of young men have already died for the arrogance of their leaders. Still to this day. Still to this day. Around 150 years ago, the British stole the Falklands so that they could maintain access into the Pacific Ocean. Since that time, the Argentinians have made repeated attempts to negotiate a return of the islands to their control. Had it not been for the access it gave to possible oil and mineral deposits in the area, Britain would have handed back the islands without a second thought. Eventually and inevitably, the Argentinians re-evaded the Falklands and Thatcher's government, seizing it as an opportunity to divert attention from its enormous domestic problems, launched the country into war. Nonetheless, however understandable the Argentinian aggression might be, it remains as unacceptable as the British response. Violence breeds violence. Every time. War. War never changes. Historically, Britain has no right to the Falklands. It seems easy to criticize the Argentinian actions, yet it was precisely those methods that Britain used to steal the islands in the first place. Let's get real about this. Thatcher, her government, and other governments before her couldn't give a toss for the British people who live on the island, nor do they care about sovereignty. It is the possibility of oil and minerals that they care about, the wealth and the power that they can exploit, and if that means that hundreds of people are going to die, tough. Or as Thatcher so neatly put it, rejoice. The nationalistic fervor that this nasty little skirmish has whipped up is just a crude cover which enables Thatcher to send young men to premature death and to create an atmosphere in which it becomes acceptable to brutally murder the so-called enemy. Thatcher talks of peaceful solutions whilst ordering the slaughter of 500 young men. Yes, exactly. Trump says this is a call of action towards peace. And then he goes and bombs a school in another country. And then he goes and kidnaps the leader of another nation. Yeah, these are all actions of peace. Kidnapping people and blowing up schools. But that's just the type of typical propaganda that you get from the oxymoronic government. The religious government, you know, all religion is hypocritical in its base form, you know. Thatcher talks of peaceful solutions whilst ordering the slaughter of 500 young men. Yes, and speaking of, there are about to be young men going to be deployed. Not only did a school get destroyed by United States missiles, but now there are a group of young men about to head over there to quote-unquote sacrifice their life for the greater good. You know? And these young individuals who are going over to the other country, I guarantee that the men and despicably the woman, the so-called sacred feminine who are supposed to be the nurturers, I bet every single motherfucker in these people's families are encouraging them to go over and fight. We're gonna fight for our country, yeah! We gotta go murder innocent people for our country. It's the same old story. Just like it says in the book, blah, 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 blah. Same old story, you know? It's for the greater good. It's your sacrifice. Rejoice, you know? Those who repeat history, or those who don't study history, are doomed to repeat it. Let me slide past here. I gotta use the restroom real quick. We'll be right back. Try to clear out my sinuses. I don't know. I'm still stuffed. It's weird. Maybe I got a loogie in there. I don't know. I'll be right back. Let me do a little dance. Make a little love. All right. Give me 5 minutes. Take a break. Brew some coffee. It's about lunchtime. Get yourself a snack. The Chautauqua will continue. Stay tuned. Stay gold. I will be right back. All right, testing. All right, sick. Let's get back to the. I'm going to take a drink, get back to the material. Love the ASMR of the waterfall. I cannot get I'll fall asleep. I'll fall asleep to that waterfall right now. It looks gorgeous too. Love Sea of Thieves. Lost my spot again. Shoot. Thatcher put it neatly to rejoice. The nationalistic fervor. Yes, the nationalistic fervor that this nasty little skirmish has whipped up is just a crude cover which enables Thatcher to send young men to premature death, to create an atmosphere in which it becomes acceptable to brutally murder the so-called enemy. Thatcher talks of peaceful solutions whilst ordering the slaughter of 500 young men. She claims that our people need protection whilst already having been responsible for the murder of over 30 of them. She is a bigot, a hypocrite, and a liar. To keep the jingoistic blood on the boil, obscene articles appear daily on the press. The dehumanizing term argie, A-R-G-I-E, I don't know whatever the hell that means, has been coined to make the death and mutilation of fellow human beings appear commonplace and ordinary. Page 3 pinups have appeared wearing an assortment of nationalistic insults. Desperate sweethearts flashed their knickers as the QE2 sailed away with its cargo of gun fodder. Britain relived the war years, rallying to its blood-stained flag in some dreadful memory of a power that once held half the world in its steely imperialistic grip. Now, that grip has become no more than a weak-wristed fantasy which, through sheer arrogance, would risk the safety of the whole planet. How long must young men continue to die for the greed of governments? I mean, I know we're almost at an hour. I'm trying to wrap it up. We're over an hour, but I'm sorry. I gotta say that again. I gotta ask that question out loud again. This is a really good question. How long must young men continue to die for the greed of governments? How long must young women exploit their bodies to support this psychosexual fantasy of war? I want to add to that, like a lot of people who don't read books will listen to that question, will listen to that sentence. How long must young women exploit their bodies to support this psychosexual fantasy of war? A lot of people will hear that sentence and be like, what do you mean by that? Well, what does he mean by that? Go ask Carrie Olahe. on Wake the Dead podcast. Go ask Carrie Elahe on YouTube about SRA. She will tell you all about satanic, ritualistic abuse by the military and by people who are in the military. These order-following, limp dick cowards. How long must young women exploit their bodies to support this psychosexual fantasy of war? The Big Bang. Big fuck. When are we going to learn to say no and really mean it? Through their massive taxation of us, the government finances its oppression of us. Northern Ireland has been a training ground for what the authorities fear is going to happen on the mainland. As the dividing line between those who can afford and those who can't grows, and as jobs become increasingly difficult to find and increasingly boring and pointless when they are found. Yes, me and Matt Bennett. Shout out to the legendary Matt Bennett. I love you, Matt Bennett. They become increasingly boring and pointless when the jobs are found. So the overall quality of life deteriorates, and the reasons for supporting those who are responsible for it become meaningless. As long as those who are in power can command the loyalty of the general public, whom they regard as slaves, they will continue to use the general public to abuse the general public. The rich will get richer, and the general public will be left to fight amongst themselves. Spot on, man. Spot on. Cities where the vast majority of the population live and work are becoming hostile islands of gray concrete, where carbon monoxide poisons the air, where unbridled commercial development makes housing almost impossible to find. Yes! And increasingly derelict when it is found, where the streets are not somewhere where you look for friends, but somewhere where you hide from enemies, where people are too scared to look each other in the eyes. Rewind back to the year 2020, where people are too scared to look each other in the eyes, where people only stop when the colorful posters or seductive shop window displays demand that they should. We are teased and titillated by this, by that. The ad men and the glitzy models exploit and manipulate. Buy this, buy that. Consume, consume, consume. The parasites become wealthy at the expense of the general public. But the parasites are the general public. Yes, Parasite, a fantastic allegorical film. When was the last time you've seen Parasite by Bong Joon-ho? Bong Joon-ho. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. When was the last time you've seen that movie, Parasite? Or Snowpiercer by Bong Joon-ho? Bong Joon-ho. I'm doing terrible, I'm sorry. When was the last time you've seen those movies? If you haven't seen those movies, what's your excuse? Why have you not seen those allegories? The parasite become wealthy at the expense of the general public, but the parasites are the general public. The serpent eats its own tail. The glossy advertisements are almost pointless. They're way above our heads. Who can afford this trash? Starbucks. Who can afford $7 for a fucking coffee, dude? But all the same, those who can afford buy, and those who can't resent it. Buy this, buy that. On all kinds of levels, the posters and billboards aim to make us feel inadequate. You're not a man unless... You're not a woman unless... Unless? Unless what? Tia Maria? Nice idea. Penny, dude. Penny's so witty. He's so witty. I love him. Penny Rombod. You witty son of a... Oh, man. Oh, I better move before Rare kicks me and I get disrupted again. I'm really trying to pump power through this. Is there a chair in here, brother? Read Waterfall by Captain Briggsy. What is that, a poem? Waterfall Wandering. Dude, I love Captain Briggsy, actually. There's something about her that I love. Not ready for music yet. We're going to slide down here. Man, like, I'm really stuffed. I don't know what it is. My nose is... Oof. Sorry. Alright. A few more pages here. Or, like, 10 pages, I think. Some more ASMR for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the live stream. I appreciate you guys. So, Fudge. Yeah, I did have a little bit of loogie there. Oh gosh, sorry. Ooh. What the heck's going on, man? Stop spraying chemtrails, bro. I want to breathe. Jesus. Okay, Tia Maria, nice idea. Nice idea, maybe, but who can afford the sun-drenched pool in St. Tropez? Who can conform to the standard fantasy norms of sexuality that those glitzy models so gracelessly display? God, models, I hate models. Is mine big enough? That's funny. Who can afford the drink, let alone the lifestyle? But all the same, those who can't afford, buy, and those who can't get angry. Buy this, buy that. So we are forced to accept second best to that which the system tells us we should aspire to. We are told that to belong we must conform to certain social stereotypes, yet at the same time, the system which creates those stereotypes knows perfectly well that very few people can actually afford the necessary credentials. Yeah, Sam's Club. Have you paid your $100 to enter this building? Do you have your Sam's Club card? Hey, if you sign up for Amazon Prime, you get 20% off your Amazon Sam's Club yearly membership. Get that deal, bro. Get that deal to buy things you don't need. When was the last time you watched Fight Club? The media creates and promotes standards of requirement. Listen to this, Sea of Thieves. From video games to holidays in the Seychelles? Holidays in the... I don't know how to pronounce that. Seychelles. Holidays in the Seychelles. That only the privileged few could hope to afford. Those who can afford, but nonetheless want to conform, are left confused, belittled, and alienated. But all the same, those who can afford, buy, and those who can't finally explode into a frenzy of hatred and revenge and smash the seductive shop windows and take the things from the people who have manipulated them into believing that these are the things that they want. Buy this, buy that, take this, take that. Tit for tat. Tit for tat, that reminds me of another allegorical film. Shoot 'em up. When was the last time you guys seen Shoot 'em Up? With Clive Owen, I think is his name. So as Brixton, Talksteth, and Moss Side burn, the system closes in to strengthen its grip and controls get tighter. The police are given even greater powers, and the army, fresh from the training grounds of Belfast and Derry, wait in the shadows. Yep, that's what they do. They wait in the shadows like little pathetic fucking cowards. The government, those in authority, and all those who serve and support them are placing the people in an impossible stranglehold. The age of consumerism, born out of the horror and guilt of World War II, has failed to live up to its promise. Neither a Cadillac nor a super deluxe washing machine make the threat of annihilation any more acceptable. Yeah, that's for sure. For a while, they might have made it a little bit more bearable, but now the threat has become too real to be hidden by layers of consumer junk, which, in any case, very few people can afford. Speaking of washing machines, I need to do my laundry today. Before I go back to work, I got to do my laundry. The authorities have lost their bargaining power. They no longer have anything to offer in exchange for the sacrifices that they ask us to make. So they're no longer asking us, they're telling us. They're telling us to work for things that we cannot afford so that they can run the system that, without us and the money we make and they take, they can't afford. As the system increasingly realizes its failure, it strengthens the barriers that exist between them and us with all the authority that it can command. But the only authority that they command is us. So who are they? I woke up this morning and I was listening to The Dark Side of the Moon. And the song Us and Them. Those, if you know, you know. The song Us and Them. Oh, man. It's making me think about that. Those few sentences I just read is making me think about that song. Us, 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 us. And them. For all we know, we're just ordinary men. God, what a good song. At last, we have reached a turning point. Oh, I think I'm coming up. Oh, I'm coming up near the end here. Authority does not exist without the value and support that we give it. As long as we, the people, bow down to the system, authority will exist, and so will the system. Yes, I mean, it's very simple. A fucking child could understand that logic. Either we accept that we are to live as mindless robots in a world that is walking the tightrope of nuclear war, where security checks will become the way of life, where the streets are patrolled by tanks and the skies by helicopters, where people no longer dare to speak of what they believe for fear of those who might be listening, where love is a memory, peace a dream, and freedom simply does not exist. Or we demand our rights, refuse to be a part of the authority that denies them, and recognizes that the system is nothing but a small handful of ruling elites who are powerless without our support. I should have been in the tavern with the music while I was reading that. Should I read it again? Put it in the comments below. Should I read that again? I think so. I think it might be worth it. So good, dude. I love this book. I love this book. I spent oh man, freaking sinuses, dude. I probably spent $10 on this. $10 on this book, and I've had it with me all these years. This book has traveled with me to Connecticut. It's traveled with me to Ohio. It's traveled with me to Skatopia. This book has lived at Skatopia for a while. The copy that I have. This copy has went to Indianapolis. It's went to Elkhart. It's went to Ohio multiple times. This book has went to Chicago multiple times. I mean, this book has been everywhere, man. Like Johnny Cash. Freaking love this book for $10, and I've kept very good care of it. I mean, the front and back cover is kind of folded outward because of how much I read it, especially with this Chautauqua, But we have a few more pages here. But the pages are just quotes from the book that I've already read. But so I hope you guys enjoyed this Chautauqua. I'm gonna read these few last other quotes, and keep going, keep going. We have the strength, but do we have the courage? We must learn to live with our own weakness, hatred, and prejudice, and to reject their weakness, hatred, and prejudice. That's not from the book. It just says we must learn to live with our own weakness, hatred, and prejudice, and to reject theirs. I added all that other stuff. Page 110. We must learn to live with our own fears, doubts, and inadequacies, and to reject theirs. We must learn to love with our own love, passion, and desire, and to reject theirs. We must learn to live with our own conscience, our own conscience, awareness, and certainty, and to reject theirs. We must learn to live with our own moralities, values, and standards, and to reject theirs. We must learn to live with our own principles, ethics, and philosophies, and to reject theirs. Above all, we must learn to live with our own strength and learn how to use it against them as they have used it against us. Throughout history, it is our strength that they have used against us to maintain their privileged positions. It is up to me alone and you alone to bite the hand that bleeds us. There is no future but our own. You and I, who love this planet Earth, are its rightful inheritors. There is no authority but our own. It is time to stake our claim. Throughout the hippie era, I had championed the cause of peace. I had joined some of the first CND marches, and later, with great sadness, I had watched the peace movement being eroded by political greed. Throughout the drop-out and cop-out period, I hung on to the belief that real change could only come through personal example. Yes, I relate to that. I had hoped that through a practical demonstration of peace and love, I would be able to paint the gray world in new colors. It is ironic that it took a man called Hope, the only real hippie with whom I ever became directly creatively involved, to show me that the particular form of hope was a dream. The experiences I had gained through my friendship with Wally led me to realize that it was time to rethink about the way in which I should pursue my vision of peace. Wally's death showed me that I could not afford to sit by and let it happen again. In part, his death was my responsibility, and although I did everything that I could, it was not enough. Desire for change had to be coupled with the desire to work for it. If it was worth opposing the system, it was worth opposing it totally. It was no longer good enough to take what I wanted and to reject the rest. It was time to get into the streets and fight back. A year after Wally's death, the Sex Pistols released Anarchy in the UK. Anarchy in the UK. Maybe they didn't really mean it, ma'am. Is that what it says? Maybe they didn't really mean it, ma'am. But to me, it was a battle cry. When Rotten proclaimed that there was no future, I saw it as a challenge to my creativity. I knew that there was a future, if I was prepared to work for it. It is our world. It is ours, and it has been stolen from us. I set out to demand it back. Only this time around, they didn't call me a dirty hippie. They called me a filthy punk. That's man. Powerful, powerful words right there, dude. Powerful, powerful book. Jesus. Again, I spent $10 on this book. You can probably go to archive. You could probably find a PDF copy of this book for free. I mean, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's out there. All you have to do is dig, do a little bit of research. So that was the last page of the book, and then it goes into about Penny Rombaught and about PM Press. There's some other books. The Story of Crass by George Berger. The Day the Country Died, A History of an Anarcho-Punk by Ian Glasper. A Mix of Bricks and Valentines by G.W. Suck. Punk Rock and Oral History by John Robb. Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables, The Early Years, Alex OGG. Alex Og. Which Dead Kennedys are a bunch of fake-ass punks. Fuck Dead Kennedys. Fuck those losers. Burning Britain, The History of UK Punk, 1980 to 1984 by Ian Glasper. I think that I've heard a lot about that book before. Burning Britain. I kind of want to check that one out. I wouldn't mind a copy of that book. But so I'll read about Penny Rombaught and then we'll wrap up and get out of here. Penny Rombaught is a writer, poet, philosopher, painter, musician, and activist. He was a former member of the performance art groups Exit and Ceres Confusion, CERES. Ceres Confusion, weird, I don't know how to pronounce that. And in 1972 was co-founder with Phil Russell, aka Wally Hope, which is what this entire book has been about, of the Stonehenge Free Festivals. In 1977, alongside Steve Ignorant, he co-founded the seminal anarchist punk band Crass, which disbanded in 1984. Funny year for disbanding a punk rock band. From that time up until 2000, he devoted himself almost entirely to writing, returning to the public platform in 2001 as a performance poet, working alongside Australian saxophonist Louise Elliott and a wide variety of jazz musicians under the umbrella of Penny Rombaugh's Last Amendment. And I will say his spoken word because he gets these musicians, so he'll do he'll perform his own spoken word poetry, and he'll have like a saxophone player, or he'll play piano. Penny's a very talented musician. He'll play piano and he'll read his spoken word poetry. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It sounds so good. I love Penny Rombaugh's poetry. That's what he's been doing. He's basically retired from the punk rock lifestyle, and from what I've seen, his life isn't very public. Penny Rombaugh's not a guy. He's not like Oprah. You know what I mean? He's not. Everything that he does every day is not in the daily public eye. Which I think is a good thing. Penny Rombaught shouldn't be in the public eye. That legendary man deserves his privacy. You know what I mean? But from what I've seen, what he's done recently has just been kind of spoken word and spoken poetry. You can find it on YouTube. Really good stuff, actually. I don't know. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Is Penny Rombaught of Crass still alive?
Yes, Penny Rimbaud, often misspelled as Rumbaugh, is still
Rimbaugh.
alive. The co-founder and drummer of the anarchist punk band Crass is currently 82 years old and continues to live and work at Dial House in Essex, England. He remains active as a writer, poet, and philosopher, frequently collaborating on jazz and spoken word projects. Would you like me to find some of his recent poetry or musical collaborations?
Yes. Yes. Yes, I would like you to find some of his recent poetry or music collaborations. The fluff? Right. Hey, Google. What has Penny Rimbaud been up to in Crass? The way I worded that was retarded. It didn't make any sense.
Penny Rimbaud continues to be active in art and music, primarily performing spoken word and avant-garde jazz at venues like London's Vortex Jazz Club. While Crass disbanded in 1984, he recently collaborated on the Crass, a pictorial history book, and oversaw the remastering of the band's entire catalog.
What?
He still lives at Dial House, the radical commune he co-founded in the 1960s. Would you like to know about his recent musical collaborations or upcoming performance dates?
Yes.
Rimbaud is currently focused on his record label, Caliban Sounds, which
What?
specializes in avant-garde and improvised music. His most recent projects include Touches Hold, 2025, a collaborative album with woodwind artist Louise Elliott, released over a decade after it was recorded. Live performances. He performs regularly at the Vortex Jazz Club in London,
What?
including a scheduled appearance today, March 26, 2026.
What?
Spoken word. He recently collaborated with Eva LeBlanc and continues to perform reinterpretations of
Eva
classic
LeBlanc,
poetry,
man,
such as
she's
his work on
gorgeous.
Wilfred Owen's war poems. Reissues. He oversaw the 2024 launch of Crass, a pictorial history, and the ongoing vinyl reissue series of the Crass Records catalog. Would you like me to find tickets for his next London show or details on where to buy the new book?
Well, there you have it. So you got the AI art, the quote-unquote artificial intelligence. He just gave you the update if you're curious about what Penny Rimbaud has been doing, the guy who wrote this book. And this modern-day Chautauqua, this is the last chapter. Like I said, this book doesn't have chapters, but this chapter 5 is going to be the last chapter of Last of the Hippies. And then I will be continuing to move on. I forget what the next project is, but I have it written down in my phone. So, I mean, there's plenty of content on this YouTube channel alone. Make sure you tune into Freedom Under Natural Law. Mark Passio's got his new seminar coming up at the November of this year. Hopefully, I can generate enough money in time. Enrollment begins on April 1st of 2026. Hopefully I can get enough money, $111 to do that. I would love to do that. That'd be sick, but I don't know. I got to change my living situation, so it's I don't. Shit's crazy. I don't know. Stuff's crazy. But Penny Rimbaud, Penny, however you pronounce the name, I love you. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for this book, The Last of the Hippies. And thank you so much if you have made it this far through all of the modern-day Chautauquas. I probably won't be playing Gex today. What's tomorrow? I'll probably play Gex tomorrow. No, tomorrow starts the community weekend, so I probably won't be able to play Gex tomorrow. Unless I take a nap and play Gex at like midnight, you know. That might work, but I don't know. I'm already tired. I kind of want to take a nap. Like, I'm already want to take a nap. It's 2:43. There's not a whole lot going on today. I wish I could go to work and make some money, but I just I can't because I don't have any jobs. It freaking sucks. But bills are coming up, so I'm going to be working towards that. I'll be working towards the next book review as well. So I don't know when the next Modern Day Chautauqua will be rebooted. Probably sometime this week. I don't know. You know, sometime next week, I should say. I got a big job in April. April 1st, I will be doing a siding job, which that's going to be a really big job. And I've never done siding before, so I'm going to be learning how to do siding. I've done roofing before. I've done plumbing. I've never done brick laying, but I've been the laborer for a brick mason before. I've done all that stuff before, but I've never done siding. So come April 1st, it's going to be very hot outside. I'm going to be sunburnt and tired. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm learning a new trade, basically. So Yeah, I'll be very tired. The next book review for April 1st is already recorded. I just have to upload it. And I don't even know if I'll get to my uploads today. No, I have to. I have to get to my uploads today. Get that book review in. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Get that book review uploaded. Get some more Banshees tunes uploaded from Chicago, St. Patty's Day. Upload a dub. I think that's about it. That's about it for the rest of the day today. I'm going to chill out. Hang out. Did my finals dailies. I got to do my Rocket League dailies. My Fortnite dailies. And Sea of Thieves Community Weekend all weekend. So make sure you tune into Beagle Eye Visions on Twitch. Find me over on Twitch because that's what I will be streaming on. I will be streaming all weekend, making so much booty here on Sea of Thieves. Here in the tavern. How much money I got? I got 11 million. And I will, this weekend, I'm going to break 11 million. As soon as I get to 12 million, because fuck 12, I usually spend my millions. And then I grind to get back up to 12 million, and then I spend it. That's my cycle lately. So, what up, Pirate Lord? Love you, bro. Cheers to you. Cheers to the audience. Cheers to the Pirate Lord. Cheers to the Sea of Thieves. Cheers to freedom. You know? And shout out to you guys. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay gold. There will be more content coming. Like I said, tune into Freedom Under Natural Law if you like this type of content. Freedom Under Natural Law. The One Great Work Network, although it's kind of sketchy. The One Great Work Network has gotten sketchy lately. I was striving to be on that network, but now there are immoral people on the One Great Work Network for sure. And from what I hear, I know of one immoral individual who has been consistently immoral on a daily basis. I know of one individual, but there's rumors of multiple immoral individuals being on the One Great Work Network. So if that's the case, I don't want to be on the One Great Work Network. I could fucking care less to be on a website with a bunch of other immoral individuals or with one single immoral individual. I don't want to be surrounded by them. I don't want to share a website with them. You know, I'm sick of immoral individuals. Tired of them. But anyways, I'm out of here. Stay tuned. Stay gold. Next Chautauqua, I think, might be Drifter Diaries. I think. Yeah, Drifter Diaries. That's going to be fun, Chautauqua, dude. That one's going to be real fun. Can't wait. Stay tuned. Stay gold. I might live stream Gex later. Probably not. Just do my uploads and then call it a day. Upload my W-Dub. Finals. New season of the finals. The new season looks amazing, by the way. If you guys play the finals, make sure you do your finals dailies. This new battle pass is freaking sick. I love it. But anyways, gave you the old Midwest goodbye. Finally done with the Last of the Hippies. No more Last of the Hippies until I do another book review. Right? I'll do a revisitation of the book review. Okay, I gotta stop ranting. Beagles are going nuts. Stay tuned. Stay gold, everybody. Beagle Eye Visions signing off. Appreciate you.